Welcome back to our latest episode of Japan's top business interviews. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Story, the president of Dale Carnegie Training Tokyo, Japan, and my special guest today is an old friend of mine, Wolfgang Bierer, who is the president of Endeavour SBC and 12 other companies, which we've got to find out how that works. I have trouble running one company, let alone 13. But Wolfgang, you know, we've known each other a long time, but you always amaze me in the things that you do and the variety of things you do. But let's go back a little bit. How does Wolfgang get to Japan? And then how does Wolfgang wind up running 13 companies in Japan? That is in the stratosphere of difficulty. So how did you first get involved with Japan and begin living here and working here?
First of all, thank you very much for having me today. Yeah, how did I start in Japan? So that's now over 25 plus years. I studied electrical engineering at the University of Stuttgart, and this training program or in this education, we need a 3 months internship. And at that time, it was rather boring to have an internship maybe in France or in Germany. And then since I came to Japan 1 year before that timing with an exchange program from the German government for youth leaders. So at that time I was a youth leader for the lifeguards in Japan, not in Japan, in Germany. And so we had an exchange program with Japan. And then I tried to get an internship for my 3 months, and I found actually with the help of a Girl Scout from Japan. She was in that exchange program, and she made the contact to Hitachi. And so I started, then I said to myself, maybe not 3 months is too short, go for 6 months. And I started with Hitachi Software Development Center in Totsuka with like basically a 6 months internship.
So you didn't have to go back to complete your studies?
Exactly. And then in my last week of my internship, the president of the software center came to my desk and said like, hey, Wolfgang, why not joining us? So he actually invited me back. And so I went back to Germany. I finished my master's thesis at that time in the development center of Mercedes. And then I came back and I joined Hitachi. So I worked 2 years for the Hitachi Software Development Center in Japan, being almost the only gaijin. I lived in a man's dormitory. I learned the hard way. And I think that also gave me the opportunity to learn about the real Japanese companies.
I would say the hard way was getting up at 5 a.m. for calisthenics, running around, you know, the mountain 500 times, and then having nothing but today, you know, rice for breakfast. Oh, what are we talking about here?
Yes, kind of. Like these men's dormitory are really rough. So it's basically 150 guys in one big building. And yes, it's kind of company restaurant type breakfast and one huge shared bathroom and all these kind of things. So yeah, I would say it's a little uncommon for even my university apartment was larger than my room, which I lived 2 years at the Hitachi dormitory. Luckily, I think in comparison to others, I actually had a single bedroom, because also these dormitories sometimes have like 2 people which don't know each other really in one room. So on that side, I was lucky. But of course, men's only, and so it has some hardships in between, I would say.
And particularly too, I guess you weren't really speaking Japanese at that point.
Not much. So during my internship, I basically didn't speak anything. So what I did during the internship is I gave English classes. And my major goal was always I used a Japanese training book to teach them English. So I studied the Japanese side, so I could at least these easy sentences of the initial, I could teach to the people of Hitachi. And initially I had 3 people from my department. And at the end of the 6 months, I had a group of almost 20 people joining my English classes. So that was kind of fun. And then back in Germany during the year, finalizing my study, I started Japanese as a side study. And then back in Japan, I did some classes, and yeah, but it's still how you say in Japanese, bochi bochi.
So how'd you finish with Hitachi, and why is that, and what do you do after that?
Yeah, that was actually like during my Hitachi time. I think I established a lot of cool things for Hitachi. Like I had a big project together with HP in US. They are still licensing some of the Hitachi software back from the days. I established developer exchange with people from India at that time. So
Very early days.
very early days, like 25 years ago, it was really like Bangalore. It was basically you need to go with the donkey carriage to the customer. So that was very interesting. And then, yeah, of course, ambitious, still below 30, wanted to get promoted. Talked to my boss, and he said like, yeah, we already made you unit manager, so you're already higher than you should be.
Is that like Kacho or Kacho Dai or something like that?
Yeah, no, it was even below, only like a very, very small. And then my, yeah, actually the Kacho then said like, oh yeah. And then I actually jumped over him and went to the butcher and said like, okay, what can you do for me? Because just 29, and I said, I want to get...
Come back in 20 years and we'll promote you to section head.
No, like he said, the typical level is 36 to get like on the manager ranks here in Japan, and there was no way around. And yeah, and then I said, okay, guys, that's not what I want. And actually, if I would have stayed, so they would have promoted me with 36. And actually, with 35, I founded my own company in Japan. So I did some steps. But in between, I joined consulting companies. So after Hitachi, I joined first a Swiss-based consulting company, then joined a German consulting company.
Were you their Japanese operation, or did they already have operations?
They already had operations for the Swiss consulting company and the German consulting company. They had in Japan, yes, they had operation. But then actually, this company said then, hey, Wolfgang, we need your talent in Germany. So they actually sent me back for 4 years to Germany.
Oh, okay.
And being back in Germany, of course, I learned a lot around the management consulting portion of it. And I also had time for executive MBA with the St. Gallen Business School. And St. Gallen Business School. Okay. So St. Gallen is old university in Switzerland, actually part of the Davos International Forum. They were the initial group setting that up. So there, yes, I did that, but my company then sent me back to Japan every 6 to 8 weeks, since fixing problems in Japan. And after 4 years, I thought, why not fixing my own problems? And then I founded Endeavor SBC. So basically, I came over with my wife, also a German, and we said like she joined me for a year, just the last year before I was transferred back to Germany. And yeah, since it was not our decision to leave Japan, so the Japan job was unfinished for us. So we said like, why not? And since, yeah, also there, my company didn't really agree on a couple of things I thought they should do. And then I just said, okay, why not give it a shot and try it on our own? So we saved 100,000 euro. We both arrived in Japan with 2 suitcases each. 2 suitcases. And now we are a family of 4, so both kids are born in Japan. And yeah, we just like end of March or 1st of April, it was the 17th business year of Endeavor SBC. This April, yes. And going strong, and especially this year, despite the fact, or the last 1.5 years, despite the fact of the pandemic, we are really doing good.
Yeah, and you know, that's interesting. You say you come back, 2 suitcases, wife, you know, and away we go. How do you go about starting up the business? Because you would have had some context maybe from Hitachi days, maybe from consulting days, but how do you suddenly say, okay, here I am, I'm back, where's the business? Send me your business. How do you go and get that business?
Of course, like I kept always like some contacts throughout the years, and then of course going back and forth. So there were some contacts, and honestly, I got a really lucky shot. So not intentionally, but just 2 weeks before I left, actually from Germany for Japan, like Adidas contacted me in Germany, where basically I was consulting for the other consulting company, and said like, oh yeah, we have big trouble in Japan with a big project, and we heard you go to Japan, so can you help us? And so that was basically the first consulting job. And so yeah, I was 6 months under full contract, and I did a good job. So they hired me to actually restart the project, which was struggling at the time. And yeah, basically I started off my career here with, or my own company with, basically 18 months full-time paid consultant job. So that was lucky shot. That, to be honest, that just happened to be. But of course, Adidas knew me from some European jobs. So therefore, yes, there was a connection. So yeah, sometimes you have a little lucky shot.
Yeah. And then how do you start finding other clients? How do you leverage what you've done and your Adidas contract to get more?
Actually, that was also again like a lot mouse to mouse. I was handed over to other clients because what in particular that was very difficult SAP project. So it was basically it was mainly my job was the project management of it. But I learned also a lot about the business processes all around the fashion sports industry, and in particular utilizing the SAP software. And there I have like my own methodology, keep standard as much as possible, changing the process rather the software. So yeah, that gave me quite a name in that area. And so actually SAP, as still today, is one of the big promoters for my company, in particular when it goes to fashion sports industry and implementation of their software. So there I got additional ones, but of course also then like starting in 2005, then of course Lehman shock came at a certain point in time. So we reinvented us a little bit, rather went towards coding for particular business processes. And then also very strong, and that worked very well in these critical times, is I started performance-based consulting, which basically mean I'm good in number crunching. So I can analyze inventory, I can analyze the buy of these companies. And what I then do is basically I try to avoid buying inventory. So it's not about getting rid of inventory through clearance channel. So I made the companies actually try to minimize their buy, which is then a definitely bottom line.
That's sort of a replication of Toyota's just-in-time system into another industry. Is that what you're basing it on, or is this coming from some other direction?
No, that's basically like avoiding the muda, as in the Toyota thing. Yeah, avoiding the waste. That's definitely what usually like you see that companies, fashion or sports companies, bring in the inventory at the beginning of the season. Then it drags along in the warehouse, but the sales picks up only to a later point in time, and then there's the push with the sale. So if you bring down that curve, and if you bring the sales curve accordingly, then you have less inventory holding costs, etc. And that was then basically my baseline. So we did that before I joined with my consulting work, and we did exactly the same KPI sets after I finished. And then a lot of money was saved, and I got my cut out of it, even in bad times.
So you're on an actual percentage of the gain, and that's very risky.
That's risky, but I know what I'm doing. So and there's a lot to do, especially in that industry. It's like why we enjoying one family sale after the other, one discount round after the other. That's actually too many companies are still doing it wrong.
Yeah. Called the race to the bottom.
Exactly, and inventory just kills you. It's just like that because it sits in your warehouse. It costs the warehouse and it costs.
Yeah, well, sort of Murray Kondo of warehousing, cleaner, brighter, get rid of that stuff you don't really need, only keep the stuff you love. So what about these other 12 companies? I mean, I get the Endeavour SBC, I get all that, but you know, you start accumulating companies on the way. How on earth did that happen?
Okay, it started off, the first company I set up here in Japan was a software company called Seeburger. So that's a software which I used in one of my projects. And I just casually sold a full license for them. And then the president of that company called me and said like, yeah, I promised many years ago that I would set up this company in Japan after we sold the first license. And I sold the first license. So since we're actually even in Germany from the same area, he said like, we can even talk our slang. So please set up the company for me. So that I did. And since the company setup for Endeavour SBC was really difficult at that time. So I had like a little shady lawyer and some one drunk juristical scrivener. So it was really heavy. So I thought, okay, that's a normal German company. I need to go to one of the bigger law firms to do that. And so I picked one of them, and then we set up the company. And actually, the lawyer said, like, it never went so smooth with somebody else. So I filled out all the questionnaires, and I did that all. So we had a very, very smooth setup. So that was company number one. In the meanwhile, it's still there. So we are still in charge of Seeburger. But
are you still getting fees from that in some sort of volume?
Yeah, of course. Like for software sales, it's always the maintenance. So we still
you take care of that for them?
Completely, yes. So, and yeah, that was company number one. Then on that stream, especially then with the law firm, they liked how easygoing it was to set up a company with me. So they actually introduced also jobs to me on the one side. So they introduced companies who wanted to get set up, who wanted to have like an interim manager to set up the companies. So that then added a couple of companies. And one of them was actually a medical device company. So it was a German company with the endoscopes. So even that was a nice challenge because I needed to get the MAH license here in Japan. So the medical import license. So and the consultants, external consultants, gave me 10% chance to make it, but I made it. So, because that's also, as with many other things in Japan, you follow the instructions, there is a checklist, and if you get all check marks, then you pass. And that, I think... Very precise, very German, very diligently preparing it. And of course, for that interview with the MHLW, there's like, you need a safety engineer and you need a quality assurance engineer, and I was basically that so-called marketing director. So you need 3 people to get the job done, but we carefully did like big charts for the processes, because it's mainly, for the medical, it's mainly the return process, or basically like the emergency process. If something goes wrong with your equipment, then you need to recall it. So we documented that in multi-language, even that I could, like with furigana, to actually that I could read all the kanjis which were on our process map. And then, yeah, we did a lot of practice runs, and yeah, we passed without a flaw.
These are the companies you're hiring staff. Maybe the first one, it's a product which you're an agent for, more or less. With this medical equipment, are you hiring a president to run the company? Are you the president?
No, I was for 4 years, and that's how many of my companies work, is that I'm the interim president, right, and then looking for a proper country manager to run the show. But initially, I set up everything. So I basically was in an empty office, starting off, buying desks there because they had nothing.
So you're hiring the staff.
And I'm hiring the staff, and I built the team, and then we're looking for someone to basically replace me. And that we did then after 4 years.
How do you find someone to replace you? Because these are very specialized jobs.
Of course, there are also the headhunters who are specialized in one or the other area. So that's one line of my businesses is helping out international companies to get started in Japan, and then for some I take over. For some I'm just let go. So that's a thing. But
Thank you very much, Wolfgang. We're not sending you any checks anymore. You are done.
yeah, but that is also for me no bad feeling. It's just like, well, I try to do a good job. They usually all get the same processes because, like, I think we optimized for Endeavor. We optimized a lot of the processes, like back office processes. Everybody gets the same template. And then why I'm especially many of my companies are now in the retail, fashion retail area.
And they don't happen because you're Adidas connection, or is that just by accident?
That came a little by the Adidas because like Adidas actually asked me once and said like, hey, can you help me on retail? And I said, I have no idea about retail. So the whole business processes or the business model was wholesale oriented at that time. So yeah, I didn't have much knowledge, but I thought because the profit margins in own retail are much better if you do it right. So I thought, okay, most likely from the industry where I'm specializing in, now they're shifting the business model. So I also need to shift myself. So I need to learn retail. And then I thought...
You can see a trend in the industry. As the industry was moving, which is, your antennas picking it up. Okay, we've got a seismic shift here, and therefore this is going to open up opportunities. I better understand retailers. Is this your mindset?
Exactly. So we analyzed it and we saw, okay, we need to learn about retail because otherwise we really can't do a proper job. So, all right, so here we are, how to learn retail. So what did I do? So I love design. So I many times go to design exhibitions and pick things for myself. So then it happened to come across a small bag brand from Germany, which has exchangeable flaps, so you can customize the bag. And I thought, yeah, why not? So I contacted them in Berlin and said like, hey, I'm the crazy German here in Tokyo. Can we sell your bags? And they were initially like, oh, yeah, we don't know. But I said like, okay, how many bags I need to buy from you to get some trust of you guys? So, and then we set up a pop-up store in Jiogooka, and we rented it for 4 weeks, and we bought inventory, and we were actually sold out after 2.5 weeks. So I basically imported over the weekend by air freight. Why Jiogooka at that time, and that's now 12 years ago, or even longer, no, it's longer, 15 years ago. That was a trendy spot. That was especially also they around the station area. They have a lot of these kind of pop-up stores, which was 15 years back in Europe. Nobody talked about pop-up stores or utilizing empty spaces just for having a temporary store. But there you could rent a normal shop for basically the period you told them.
And are you actually in the store?
Yes, exactly. And that yeah, exactly. So
that must have been a bit unique for the consumer with this Japanese-speaking foreigner. They probably think you're American, like most Japanese think you're Americans, but there must have also been a bit, bit of pizzazz for them, I suppose.
Yes, but of course, like even the funny story, I'm a little lookalike from the designer. So sometimes they ask, is that you? And I said, I didn't say really yes or no, but we could, yeah, we are both Germans. So at the end of the day, it worked out really well. And that gave us the business case to open a store in Daikanyama. So since Daikanyama is so that fashion hub, especially for select items, not for mainstream, for the select items. And so we opened first like 32 square meter, and we run it for 3 years on second floor. Then we moved on into 75 square meters in the same building complex on first floor. And then, yeah, we had the store 9 years long in Daikanyama. And then
all of the inventory beautifully, timed to hit the shelves, right?
Always, like, we never have too much inventory. Just in time. No, but honestly, I think that's the really, really biggest point in the whole.
Do you think for yourself, this is easy, I just go and get a little pop-up store, or work a few bags on some shelves, they fly off the shelves in 2 days, I have to air freight in some more for the rest of the 4 weeks, and then they go, bingo, hey, let's go to Daikanyama. Yeah, very, very high-end area. And we'll have this little area on the second floor. It's not even on the first floor, and they're still flying off the shelves. Then you get some more space in the building. It seems like everything went so easily, so smoothly. What's the secret here? What's going on here?
I think the secret for overall success of the businesses is that I have the ability to utilize these different revenue streams. So sometimes consulting, finance a little the inventory buy, because the cash flow is not 100% there. And I think that's really overall, that's why these 17 years with all the big events like Lehman, earthquake, now pandemic, went very smooth, because we still run on our initial 100,000 euro. I don't have any single yen from anyone. I don't have a bank who lend me money. So all what I'm doing is 100% cash. Right. So that gives me also a very easy, good sleep at night, because I don't need to worry about the bank needs to get that. And so we had good times, we had bad times.
The banks would only look out the window. Oh, it's a beautiful sunny day. No hint of rain. Okay, Wolfgang, we'll loan you this umbrella. First sign of rain, we want our umbrella back. You know the problem. Did this sort of give you the idea to keep progressing in the retail area? You think, okay, we've had a bit of an idea here on how this can work, and what else can I find? Is that how it sort of worked?
Yes, and then of course, like since I got some visibility, especially in the European community, okay, there's this crazy guy having his own store, selling these German bags, and then actually, like, next was the big brand Bree, like from Germany, premium leather bag brands. They come to me, and basically I got introduced by someone. Okay, there's that guy who's doing bags in Japan, and maybe contact them. So Bree was in trouble, so they hired me.
They were already established here.
They were established here over many years. They were really doing good in the 70s, 80s, and then business went down. They had exactly the problem, too much inventory. And then, somebody introduced me, and then, I replaced the president at that time.
So you went to your drawer, you pulled out the inventory correction plan. You said, okay, here we go.
Exactly. So that then I was 2 years interim president of Bree. And then we discussed, and especially like certain things, especially back office, I always try to utilize synergies. And then I just said, like, just give it to me. So basically, I bought Bree Japan as an operation.
Is that a 100% agent for Bree?
Yes, I'm the owner, and I have the import license.
You have the exclusive license for the product in Japan, and you're happy to do that.
Yes, because I basically saved their business. I hold their flag up, and then they said, like, okay, yeah, well, before we pay, you take the risk, which of course is still there. So it's always hard, especially now this year or last year with the huge closures. It's a tough job, but yeah, overall I like it, and that then helped me to establish different things. So then I got a shoe brand from Germany doing the same thing. Then I basically got another bag brand now, and exciting that I also have now a men's collection. So I will be the sole importer for Porsche Design Japan.
Wow.
And we have Eigner. Now we have Mephisto shoes, we have Kennel Schmenger shoes, and that all comes with a similar concept. So,
if you want to be successful as a leader, do the Leadership Training for Managers course. All companies need people who can both manage and lead. Leading people screams out for real skills in communication, dealing with all different types of people, being excellent at innovation, planning, delegation, handling mistakes, doing performance reviews really well, and inspiring and motivating the team. Do the Leadership Training for Managers course now in either Japanese or English. Is there a sort of German emporium centre building with everything in the one place in mind here? You seem to have a lot, not so much competing perhaps, but a lot of complementary products, you know, make it a sort of destination style, all the content there, and that would sort of lend itself to going into one place. You could get a very nice array of exclusive German high-quality goods, and that must be attractive.
That's attractive, and especially also there we try to utilize the synergies, especially like it's all accessories. So you go to one buyer at Mitsukoshi Isetan, and he's in charge of everything, basically, what we currently have. So it's actually very easy. And at the moment, I think many brands are suffering, especially in the department store area, that you need to provide the stuff for standing in front of your shelf. So if you ever wondered why so many people are on the floor, but nobody is there to buy, because they are designated salespersons for one brand. So that's why every brand needs to bring their own people. So that's really like inefficient. It's efficient if you have a packed Sunday afternoon without the pandemic, then maybe you need these kind of stuff, but the whole week you don't need. So it's very, very tough to maintain that. So what we're now doing is we're opening in end of August in Nagoya for Porsche design. We have a corner for Bree, and we will bring the scarves from France. And I'm organizing 75 square meter of shop-in-shop within Mitsukoshi. So, but utilizing only one sales staff for the 3 brands. And if that works, I want to make that as a basically model for other department stores, because they need to get more attractive in Japan. It's rather boring. So having someone who organizes that and can mix, and also I'm in charge of one of the pop-up corners there, I can bring different brands. So if I get a new one, I can just give it a shot. So that's what's there up.
So when you're acting as interim president, are you charging a president's previous salary multiplied by 1.5 or multiplied by 2 as a premium for having that interim period? Or are you getting an agreed number, like a contract for agreed period of time for this number?
Yeah, we having all different kinds of models. Honestly, also depending on the size and the pain of the company, because sometimes, if a struggling company, yes, they struggle because they maybe overpaid the previous president and he didn't do a good job. And so there, since I have many of the processes, as you said, like I have it in my drawer, and just bring the concept out.
Struggling company with no money. And plan B is I'll take this turnover of the improved revenues due to my efforts. Okay, that's plan B.
Exactly. Honestly, like even the other day, we at the moment negotiating with a Swiss brand, doing something like that, and I gave them 2 options. It's just like one model where I'm a pure consultant, and one model where I'm also engaging myself. And when I engage and see a longer term perspective for me, where I can actually then over a longer term get the revenue, that's also fine for me.
I just have trouble running one company. You know, how do you run stuff in 13 companies? Now, we're talking about leadership in this podcast. You know, you're a very different model to most people who have just one company to run. So what is your leadership approach? With interim leader, how do you approach the team? How do you get them engaged? How do you get them on board with the new direction? How do you do that? Or if you're starting up something new, how do you get people to come into this very niche little company that's got, one location in Japan, and it's not even a very big space, and get them to sign on to that? I mean, there are so many layers of complexity as well around dealing with people in the team. So let's start with, interim president, model for that model. Okay, welcome. Here's our new interim president. Hi, everyone. You're fired, you're fired, you're fired. Or how does that work? Well, what's What's going on here?
Yes, honestly, like the firing, I'm actually not as good as I should be, because I think honestly sometimes it's really the overall team, and I should be tougher on these topics. So I try to improve that, because it proven now over the years, for some people I initially already had a bad impression that didn't go much better. So sometimes the change would be actually good. But usually what I do, and there where I'm really coming from the process corner, so I really want to learn the business. So I come in, I listen a lot, that I also do on my normal consulting companies, jobs. It's really like I want to learn it. And of course we have experience. And then we immediately looking, okay, what are the cost drivers? So let's get rid of that. Sometimes, especially in Japan, for example, IT cost, it's so easy to cut basically 50% because everybody overpays.
This is calming news for all my listeners and viewers.
I make any bet whenever a new company wants to invite me. We get your IT costs down. I'm 100% sure.
The people who are in that company, they must be concerned about their livelihood. They've made a commitment to that company. They left another company for your company. The people who are in that company, they must be concerned about their livelihood. They've made a commitment to that company. They left another company for your company. They're hoping that it's all going to go well. They don't know you. How do you give them courage that you can turn this around? Because what you don't want are the most capable, and therefore usually the most mobile people say, well, this is a dead duck. I'm out of here. I'll go and get a job somewhere else because I can get a job. And you're left with all the people who can't get another job, and you're trying to work with that team. So how do you work that balance?
There immediately, as said, like I'm analyzing, I spend a lot of time with the new team or the team I inherited. And I think I have built out some antennas to say, okay, this one is in my direction. He gets where I'm coming from. Of course, I give them some new processes. I immediately change some of the things. I immediately cut some costs, and then we work together. And since I believe over the many years now, I wouldn't go in any industry where I have no idea. So I know these industries very well. I have good connections to department stores and whatever. And so that actually also reassures the people that I know what I'm doing. So and that's sometimes missing, because sometimes these guys who got the president position are just like too much Japanese president from time to time, pretty hands off, delegating from the top. And exactly, or directly from the golf course. And I get my hands dirty. And it's, for example, for Bree, we needed to organize the inventory better. So then, we went to the warehouse. And of course, I joined. And we're still doing it. Sometimes maybe you see my posts like it's pre-sports day, I define. Then we all dress casual and we go to the warehouse if we receive a huge shipment, and including the president and including other senior guys. It's just like then a team building event. So I show them that I make my hands dirty and listen to them. And I think overall in Japan, it's also, you need to also, especially there maybe for your international listeners, you need to try to get in the inner circle of your Japanese team. Like, you need to maybe make a fool out of you at the karaoke evening, or you need to basically be approachable. And yes, you need to understand the details. And I think there are many leaders I saw, they are up in the Iron Tower, and they don't really know what's operational going on. And since I'm very in the bits and the bytes of the process, even like sometimes we implement a new IT software where I'm then the main guy, sometimes overnight doing something, or some of the websites from I just hired a web designer a couple of weeks ago, but before it was basically, my nighttime fun doing our own websites. So.
And sleeping 2 hours a night by the sound of it?
No, only 5 to 6, but yes, not too much. So yes.
In the case of where you now own the brand in Japan and you're the importer, you're the distributor, and you have staff who are working in that company. This is now their company and you're their president. So what is your approach with them? How do you recruit them? How do you keep them? How do you engage them? How do you build trust? What are you doing in these areas?
Yeah, overall, I think difficult to say. I'm having really like a lot of different approaches, but overall, over the years now, I hire more females than males because I think they many times get it better to change.
Ex-Prime Minister and previous head of the Tokyo Olympic Committee, Mr. Mori, said that the women are too competitive with each other and that's why he found it difficult with the meetings. Now, interesting question. When you've got a lot of women working in the company, are they really competitive with each other? Is that a function of women in Japan, women generally?
Over the years, I had some competition within the team. I saw that in particular when, it's always like this senpai model here in Japan, like if I hire older ones and there are some younger ones, then immediately the older one think she's better than the younger ones. And in the meanwhile, I actually promote the younger ones usually much faster, just to make sure they get what they deserve. And just recently, I had an awesome hire, just like completely fresh from university, and it working out very, very good. She just
this competition thing. Do you think that's just this competition thing? Do you think that's just a business thing in Japan, that people are competitive with each other inside the company? I mean, companies I've worked in, the men are highly competitive with each other, very sharp elbows, trying to climb over the bodies of their colleagues to grab the brass ring, no compunction about doing that. And when, you read these things like Murray said about women to compete, that's why they talk too much in meetings, you just wonder, is that just a reflection of life in business? Is that a reflection of business in Japan? Is that a reflection about women? In very female-oriented work groups, how do they actually function? It's very hard for me to judge that.
I would personally say no. It really depends on the ladies you have there. At the moment, I have a very, very nice group of ladies in the office, which work very good together. So there is no big trouble. But also from a leadership point of view, for me it's always like, as said, I dig into it. They see me, I'm approachable. Same for my stuff in the stores. I go there. I try to be there. We make, I don't know, in the store at Ginza, we make a Christmas market, and of course I'm there, and of course I'm serving, just like that, approachable and making hands dirty. And of course trust building is also, if things are tough, like let's say department store closure last year, I was not supposed to pay, for example, temp staff, but I do. So temp staff who helped us always got basically the average of the last 3 months before we closed. I kept paying them. So.
And why was that? In a downturn, doors close, reduce the trading hours, people shed temporary staff. In some cases, they'll shed full-time staff, even to cut the cost down. The type of human inventory, can I say it like that, and really, shrink the business to survive. But you're not doing that.
No, because I think I gained trust with my employees. Yeah, but especially do what you say. I think that's most important for me. Is like they can bet their life on what I tell them, and it's not. I'm not bullshitting, and it can be tough from time to time, but also then honest, tough. So and then really if hard it happened in 17 years for all my companies, I never ever missed paying salary to any of my staff members. I missed many times my own salary, but I never missed to pay my staff, and. In good or bad, and also, of course, we are a product company, So what's also easy is give incentives by giving a bag or giving some shoes or doing these kind of unexpected goodies from time to time, which then leads to trust and then especially like again back to last year, I got a lot of super nice feedbacks, even handwritten letters back from the teams who actually received still like their average salaries even in tough times, and they're lucky for me, these like consulting was very strong now over the last 2 years. So I could do some cross-financing for the other areas. So these multiple revenue streams really save my day and make it possible to also secure my own lifestyle.
Do you treat the business as a whole in the sense of when you survey the Wolfgang Empire, which is vast, by the way, and you see person A over here in this section of the overall collection of businesses, you think, that person will be a genius over here in this part of my other businesses, and this person could actually move from here to here. Do you keep them in silos for the businesses, or do you move them across the businesses to treat the whole thing as one unit? How does that work?
So what we do is Endeavor holds the core team. And I would say this is my kind of special force. And I gained, I assembled there a very, very strong team. And it's clear from the beginning to all the other brands or companies, sometimes it's legal entities, that it doesn't matter if I say it or one of my staff members, like they are 3-4 people who whatever they say count as much as me. Of course, having as many companies, having consulting gigs in between, there's only limited time for all these companies. And there you asked before, like how I'm doing it, how I'm juggling all the balls. It's really like, I think what I can really do, concentrate on one thing at a time and be very efficient doing things for that in that 1 hour, and then switch to the next one and then doing something else in the other hour, but very concentrated, cut the crap, and also for example my mobile phone, I don't have any company email on my phone for none of the 12 companies. So
this sounds like a good way of making time.
Yeah, exactly. So I have multiple PCs, of course, branded also to certain of the companies, and that gives me actually then the time to concentrate on one, because you can imagine like my inbox is every other second something comes if they would all go to the same, and then I have that, and at the evening when I want to have free time, then I have free time, and I'm not the slave of my mobile phone waking me up, and I check emails when I'm back in the office. That's it.
Are you doing business with Japan? Do you really know how things work? Japan Business Mastery provides the answers. Do you have the right networks and know how to create them? Do you know how to get on the same wavelength with Japanese buyers? Do you know what being trustworthy looks like from the Japanese perspective? Japan Business Mastery is based on more than 30 years' experience in Japan and will become your go-to guide. Want to succeed in Japan? Buy Japan Business Mastery now. Well, that's good, you know. You're only working 17, 18 hours a day to fit all of this in by the sounds of it, but what about the people part? Because as you say, you know, it's a people business because you're selling to the public. You've got consulting, which again is a very people business. You're spread across a lot of different areas. So you have to rely on your team to get the job done. So how do you go about rewarding people? How do you go about, correcting maybe poor performance or redirecting, maybe where we're going, the direction? Because sometimes they may start taking it off, somewhere else. They start zagging over here when actually want to be zigging over this side. How do you keep track of all that? How do you keep all these people aligned?
Not always easy. So since most of the areas I'm dealing with, I have a good idea by myself, because many of the things they need to do, I did by myself. Because initially, all the startup from Endeavor and also some other businesses, we really did I almost can say I did 99% of all jobs in my different companies I once in a while did on my own. So I know exactly, like, okay, I'll give you the job, and it needs to take an hour to get me a result. So after 2 hours, I didn't have a result, then I go and check on them, and then I can say, like, well, what's the problem? And is it a knowledge problem? Then I can help and teach. Is it a time problem because we overload you, or is it just like, I don't want to do it, or I can't organize myself good enough? Then we need to take other measures in terms of training, or then really say, okay, it's maybe not the best fit. And that is, and I said, like I have this small task force, special force team who supports that, and for my really inner core, of course, we have a very good relationship, and everybody gets benefits on the one side in terms of bonuses. And there, it doesn't matter if it's the new hire. Like for example, I said the new hire, just 2 years with the company, got an awesome bonus for her age and group, which is perfectly fine. Who delivers gets the deal. And clearly, for underperforming sales guys, for example, in my shoe business, well, they have a hard time, and we let them go. And so that's just like, we need to see. I think I know exactly what I can expect. So I'm not over challenging, but of course, since I also go the extra mile, I have an expectation of getting the extra mile. And from time to time, of course, like at the moment, we started having Friday evening beers and these kind of things. It's not available outside at the moment, so then we have it in the office. And incentives which come surprisingly to some of the guys. A couple of weeks ago, there was like one really hard-working member of the team. He planned some trip over the weekend, and I just said, hey, that's now the business trip. So bring the receipts. So that are things which you can do as a company owner, having flexibility in these kind of topics. And that's what I try to do. And especially, I think sometimes the surprising element of the incentives is really making people happy.
People are there across the different businesses, I guess. There's different industries, but are most of the people rather on the younger side or middle or what?
Rather on the younger side. Especially what I said before, my older employees and tries to give a chance didn't really work so well over many years. So also one topic, what I learned is I will not hire any closer friends anymore. I did that a couple of times, and unfortunately that didn't work out too well.
So she has a friendship, and the client or the staff member both go in this situation.
Yeah, exactly. And so that really didn't work well for me. And then at the moment for me is especially also, as you also helped, thank you very much for that. I'm also very engaged in the Startup Lady organization. So thanks for teaching the bootcamp, which I financed, by the way. I'm the sponsor of that program.
Are you? How was I supposed to teach sales and marketing in 4 hours? That was a mystery to me. Anyway, I did my best. I did my best for them. That was another thing. I talk about young people a little bit because many of us who have a variety of age groups in our companies notice that there is a change in mentality. I find the younger people are different. What are you finding?
There are, big changes, I think, nowadays. they are more like okay, I want to achieve that, I want to achieve that. You need to find, since okay, I'm in the meanwhile known that the office is definitely not a Japanese. We are a Japanese company, but it's not a Japanese environment. And I'm in particular targeting these groups of employees who might have a problem with a Japanese company. And I think there, the industry or Japan actually needs to do something to be still attractive. And I do my share there. So as said, I have jobs mainly for whoever is able. Bilingual is important. Everything else can be trained.
Is it hard to find bilingual people?
No. There you only need to do the proper selection of is the only skill the language, or is also some other skills?
I'm just thinking in terms of supply, because the numbers of young Japanese who used to travel overseas to do 4-year degrees has really declined after the Lehman shock. You know, it's come up a little bit, but they're not going for as many years. They're going for short programs. They're not getting the immersion of culture and language that they did previously. And a lot of the younger generation don't want to work overseas. When the company says, look, we're buying up the world and we need you to go overseas, they're like, no, I want to stay here. Japan's better than everywhere else. Why would I go somewhere else? So that is quite a contradiction. But Japan Inc. actually wants them to be more globalized. But the younger people, in broad terms, are saying, well, maybe no. So I'm just wondering how you're finding them.
Yeah, for me, I'm offering opportunities to young people, and immediately also give responsibilities, and I just can provide a different work environment than maybe others. And there I think it's the big point is that you need to give them the opportunity. You don't ask for, like, they don't need to come with a black skirt and a white blouse for the interview or these kind of topics. And I think there companies need to just adjust. And now my web designer, well, she works from home 2 days a week, and then she comes in, and but she gets her job done at the end of the day. So I think there you also need to let go some of the things. I'm also clearly, of course, in current times now, anyway, COVID, flex time, whatever, work from home, also not a big problem. And yeah, if I see that it works, then and if I get my feedback, because clearly, like from my point of view, is I need, and if it's only like short text, is like, okay, job done, and these kind of things. So my management style is really like all on a longer leash, but still on the leash. So try to steer them in the right direction, and getting stuff is a lot then to referrals or these groups where I'm also volunteer to give speeches and then come in contact and then just follow up. And if I have a first good impression, then why not ask them to join?
What about in terms of recruiting young people? You know, it's one part of it. How about, developing them? Because it's probably a few people in multiple different locations now. Probably many of them are working from home. How do you manage them when they're dispersed like that? How do you develop them when they're dispersed like that?
That's, of course, is a challenge. Like it's for me, we do a lot of video conferences, of course, so checking in on them. Same for my international teams, the consulting teams. I'm run sometimes 8, 10, 15 people in larger consulting gigs, sometimes globally. We have these check-in meetings, 30 minutes in the morning for these teams. For other teams, we have kind of regular things to just check, and we have checklists or basically task lists which we work through, and that's how it works. And of course, it's not all going perfect. My team is asking all researchers in the world to make some Wolfgang clones. because sometimes, of course, my time is really the most limited one to give them FaceTime with me. So yeah, but overall, somehow it works, and of course, a lot of extra time also from time to time on the weekends. I work, yes.
So we've talked a lot about business and about leading multiple firms simultaneously, which is extraordinary for my mind. I'm struggling to lead one company over here, but are there any things I should have asked you about leadership which I have not asked?
No, for me, leadership is really like leading by example. That works, I think, overall the best. And also, yeah, leadership for me is the ability to listen, and also, yeah, have the antennas to recognize the one or the other like trouble, even not obvious for now, but basically developing to become a problem. So there, I think, and that's only possible if you're close to the people, if you really know what the people are doing, and also, yeah, like engage yourself. Before we said, like you said, like selling in the store. Yes, intentionally I did that. For example, in the store in Daikanyama, at least initially once a month, and then maybe later once a quarter, I was selling on my own in the store, just to also get the customer feedback. Even there, I want to be close by. So overall, I think that's very important, that we are close by the people we are dealing with, customers as employees, and we are treating them fairly. I think that's important. And in tough times, tough measures need to be in place. But on the other side, also, you can't push them off the cliff, as my temp staff, because they wouldn't struggle a lot.
So if I were to give some advice to someone who's being sent to Japan by their company, to go to Japan, run the operation, what will be some pieces of advice you will give to someone new coming here? They don't speak the language, they don't know the culture.
I think what helps, and that even helps in my consulting teams, which are global, is get someone as a translator for yourself in the middle. Don't try. Japanese is too hard, and you will never learn it on the nuances. So I think it's a very wise investment to get someone by your side who is particularly in charge of only enable you to communicate in a way that you want to communicate. And then go down and dig into the processes, try to learn the business. And many times you see that the European approach is just not working. Like especially if you see on marketing or whatever, you can't expect that the team is self-driven working on something, because they need just more guidance. They need more of your attention. So guiding by a hand-holding, it's not just like do that and then they spend 5 hours Googling. Shacho said, okay, that's that word, and sometimes it's just not working. So we can't expect certain international education standards or levels here in Japan. That doesn't mean that it's not working. It's just differently working. And sometimes the big struggle is then that, especially like older Japanese employees, they really listening careful and then put your words on the gold scale, and then and they try to match it. Yeah, everybody have the best effort, but sometimes it's just like total waste of time, because they will never get that done. So what you need to do, and that's the advice, is really go down, sit with the people, see how it goes, and not immediately say, they are all dumb. Or I heard some of my friends like can't work with that team, and I always tell them, you need to most likely work differently with your team then, because you need to learn that. And that's how it works. And especially get engaged, as said, embarrass yourself at a karaoke night when it's possible again, and be part of it, and be approachable, and not sit on your high chair somewhere overlooking. You need to gain the trust of the people and show that you actually care.
I think that's probably a good place to wind it up. Thank you very much, Wolfgang. It's been, as always, fascinating to talk with you and to learn about this mega empire you've built here in Japan, which is outstanding achievement. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
And please join us again for our next episode of Japan's top business interviews.